British government is facing strong backlash from opposition parties and human rights groups after announcing plans earlier this month to send asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing in a bid to deter migrants from crossing the English Channel in small boats. The United Kingdom has already signed a deal with Rwanda to send some asylum seekers in the East African nation, a move that Prime Minister Boris Johnson said will save countless lives from human trafficking. The plan has triggered widespread condemnation in Britain, with critics branding it inhuman and unworkable, and it is already facing legal challenges. Getting into the details of the story, we will know who are these refugees, how is this deal profitable for Boris Johnson's government, and why are these refugees being dumped into Rwanda, which is already a land in conflict. Britain in recent years has seen an illegal influx of migrants from such places as Syria, Afghanistan, Iran, Sudan, Iraq and Yemen. More than 4,500 migrants have crossed the English Channel from France to Britain in small boats this year. Just last year, over 28,000 people entered the UK in boats, up from 8,500 in 2020. For years, migrants have travelled to the UK using northern France as a launching point by hiding in trucks and ferries. With the pandemic shutting down most routes in 2020, many opted to travel in small boats organized by traffickers. Dozens have not survived the trip, drowning in the bitter cold waters of the English Channel. Now, why the UK government has selected Rwanda? Rwanda is a geographically small country with one of the highest population densities in sub-Saharan Africa. Rwanda is counted among the poorest nations in the world. Its 40% population of the total 1.30 crore is below the poverty line. It is spread in 26,338 kilometers of area with a history of crimes. Rwanda has a murky human rights record. The NGO Human Rights Watch has documented frequent attacks on freedom of speech, the abuse of LGBTQ+ people, and the use of excessive force against refugees. Rwanda has a known track record of extrajudicial killings, suspicious deaths in custody, unlawful or arbitrary detention, torture and abusive prosecutions, particularly targeting critics and dissidents. In fact, the UK directly raised its concern about respect for human rights with Rwanda and grants asylum to Rwandans who have fled the country, including 4 just last year. The Rwandan is also known as the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi during the Rwandan Civil War. During this period of around 100 days, 800,000 members of the Tutsi minority ethnic group as well as some moderate Hutu and TWA were killed by armed militias. HRW is in a statement said that at a time when the people of the UK have opened their hearts and homes to Ukrainians, the government is choosing to act with cruelty and rip up their obligations to others fleeing war and persecutions. Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watchdog has branded the plan the very height of irresponsibility that shows how far from humanity and reality the government is. How is this deal profitable for Boris Johnson's government? Britain's plan is to fly migrants more than 6,000 kilometers to Rwanda, where they will be put in holding centers while their asylum claims are processed. Britain's Home Secretary Priti Patel signed the policy alongside Vincent Biruta, Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs, during a visit to Kigali earlier this month. Working together, the United Kingdom and the Rwanda will help make the immigration system fairer, ensure that people are safe and enjoy new opportunities to flourish. The British Home Secretary said on April 14 that, as quoted, "We have agreed that the people who enter the UK illegally will be considered for relocation to Rwanda to have their asylum claims decided, and those who are resettled will be given the support including up to 5 years of training, with the help of integration, accommodation, healthcare so that they can resettle and thrive." Britain has paid Rwanda an initial $155 million for a 5-year trial plan. Britain will also pay Rwanda for each migrant the African nation accepts. The reason why Britain is trading the refugees to Rwanda is because every year the UK government is spending around 14,000 crore on these refugees. Around 39 crore is spent daily on the refugees camp setup. So if we compare these figures with the deal signed with Rwanda, the UK is in profit anyways. Also, sending asylum seekers to another country strips them of their right as afforded by the International Refugee Convention to have their cases considered in the country in which they have chosen to seek refuge. It denies them agency, it doubles their displacement, and it exposes them to prolonged uncertainty and further risk, namely Rwanda's worrying human rights record. Several activists, refugee and human rights organizations have strongly condemned the new scheme, highlighting the dangers of transferring refugees and asylum seekers to third countries without sufficient safeguards. The United Nations Refugee Agency said they must not be traded like commodities and transferred abroad for processing. Time and again, Prime Minister Boris Johnson had emphatically defended Britain's plan, arguing that it is a legitimate way to protect lives and thwart the criminal gangs that smuggle migrants across the English Channel in small boats. Britain cancelled the first flight that was scheduled to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda on June 14, after the European Court of Human Rights intervened, saying the plan carried a real risk of irreversible harm. The decision to scrap the flight capped 3 days of frantic court challenges from immigrant rights lawyers who launched a flurry of case-by-case appeals seeking to block the deportation of everyone on the government's list. British government official has said that the plane would take off no matter how many people were on board. British media reported that the number of potential deportees had been more than 30. After the flight was cancelled, Home Secretary Priti Patel said she was disappointed but would not be deterred from doing the right thing. She added, "Our illegal team were reviewing every decision made on this flight and preparation for the next flight is underway." HRW and other groups have however accused the UK government of downplaying and ignoring the real risk. According to Patel, the plan aims to improve the UK's asylum system, which according to her has been struggling to deal with a combination of real humanitarian crisis and evil people, smugglers, profiteering by exploiting the system of their own gains. Now, as part of the new plan, the British Royal Navy has been instructed to ensure no boat makes it to the UK undetected. PM Johnson said anyone who arrives illegally could potentially be prosecuted with life sentences for anyone piloting the boats. Do any other countries send asylum seekers just like UK? Yes. Several other countries, including Australia, Israel, and Denmark, have been sending asylum seekers overseas. Australia has been making full use of offshore detention centers since 2001. According to the border force, over 4,000 were relocated to places like Nauru and Papua Australians has been making full use of offshore detention centers since 2001. According to the border force, over 4,000 were relocated to places like Nauru and Papua near Guinea between 2012 and 2019. Israel too chose to deal with a growing influx of asylum seekers and illegal immigrants from places like Sudan and Eritrea. By striking deals with third countries. Those rejected for asylum were given the choice of returning to their home country or accepting $3,500 and a plane ticket to one of the third countries. They faced the threat of arrest if they chose to remain in Israel. Thank you for watching the video. Please hit like, subscribe and share, and if you like more videos like this, please tell me in the comments.